Okay, had to restart it. Okay, so he said, it is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. He's legitimizing himself again. Giving all praises due to God. But God, in the form of him as the Son of God, was able to speak the word of God. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So anyway, Pharaoh speaks to Joseph about his dream. And he says, behold, I'm upon the bank of a river, and behold, there came out of the river 7 kine, flat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came upon them after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean flesh, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kind did eat up the first fat kind. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as at the beginning. So I awoke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears of corn, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered thin and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. God hath showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he sheweth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there are 7 years of great and plenty throughout the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land, and the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of the famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look unto a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years, and let them gather all the food in those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities, and the food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. All Joseph learned from Potiphar's house to being head of the prisoners in prison, head of the king's prisoners in prison, gave him the wisdom to be able to counsel Pharaoh. He just counseled Pharaoh. He just solved a problem. He solved a problem. He legitimized himself by saying that it is not him, it is the God within him that flowed forward. He solved the problem by giving Pharaoh not only an answer to his dream, an interpretation, but a plan. And also, he gave himself the first opportunity to fill that role. What better man do you need to fill this role than I? I just solved this problem for you. You couldn't find one person throughout the whole land amongst all your magicians to solve this problem for you but me, a Hebrew. Let me keep going. He counseled Pharaoh. He met Pharaoh where Pharaoh was at. This Hebrew, this shepherd, met Pharaoh on Pharaoh's level. This is because of all of the walks that Joseph had up to that point. All that was supposed to harm him and rob him, blessed him, only because he was open to learning while in them. He didn't sit there and weep and say, poor me. He looked around and said, dang it, God, look at what you're doing. You're putting me amongst these people. And obviously, if you're putting me amongst these people, I must have what it takes to be what they are. I got every ounce in me to do what they do and more. Why? Because Joseph was born in love. Joseph came from love, y'all. His father loved him. His brothers hated him. He didn't have an issue with dealing with hatred. He had dealt with hatred his whole life. He had dealt with the antagonist his whole life. The antagonist was his brothers. Could you imagine 11 strong, ruddy brothers? He done had hand-to-hand combat. He wasn't scared to fight. You want to go outside and fight? I've been fighting. Okay. You want to scheme on me? I've been schemed on my whole life. You want to try to play me out of position? I've been played out of position or tried to be by my own brothers my whole life. I'm going to learn from every angle because I've had to my whole life. Look. Pharaoh is grateful to Joseph. Pharaoh has faith in Joseph. Pharaoh sees something in Joseph by way of Joseph's activity. Pharaoh sees the anointing of God on Joseph. Because, see, an anointing of God is what sets you apart. It's not the fact that Joseph could interpret the dream. It was the fact that Joseph could interpret the dream with such detail, passion, and to counsel Pharaoh, give Pharaoh an action plan, a clear and concise plan as to what to do next, how to safeguard it from all of these things that happen. See, because when you get a prophetic word, it's a prophetic word. Some things are in concrete and some things are not. Some things you can plan for so that when it comes upon you, it don't hit you as hard. It gives you the advantage. Instead of it being a Debbie Downer, it was a blessing. It gave Pharaoh the advantage. So yes, the famine is going to come and it's going to be grievous on the land, but so what? We're going to be prepared for it. And we're going to be the only place in the area, in the world that the famine hits, that's going to be able to eat, that's going to have plenty. That's what Joseph did. Keep going. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art discreet. Because, see, you need discretion. Joseph could have took that information and spoke that to somebody else, and that other person could have spoke that to someone else and someone else and someone else and someone else, and they could have come upon Egypt. It could have come upon Egypt. See, some circles, some things you got to keep to yourself. Some things in your life, you got to handle by yourself. You can't call nobody and be like, girl, guess what? This, that, and the, I want to bump this idea off on you, girl. I want to talk to you about this. No, you got to get to a place where you know how to keep your business to yourself. Keep your business to yourself. Because if you can keep your business to yourself, that in itself is a commodity, friend. That in itself is a commodity. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none. Okay, I said that. And thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. Gave him everything. He over Potiphar. The Hebrew that served Potiphar and his lousy, trifling, lying, deceitful wife is now head over both of them. I'm telling you how God works. I'm telling you. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over Egypt and all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen and put a gold chain about his neck. He draped him. He draped him. He draped him in fine linen. He put jewelry on, put a chain on his neck. That's a chain of connection. It's a cable. It's a connection. A cabal, a connection. He put a ring on his finger. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him, bow thee knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Nath-Paaneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh gave Joseph the daughter of a priest to marry. Now, mind you, the priests actually run Egypt. The priests are the power behind the throne. Pharaoh is just a front man. Yes, he has power. He has absolute power, but he is nothing without the priesthood. Everything was related to spirit. Everything had a spiritual component. Pharaoh, the priesthood ran Pharaoh. And for Pharaoh to grant Joseph to marry a priest's daughter was a huge significance. Joseph was a Hebrew. He didn't deny it. He knew it. He wasn't lying. He didn't come up in there and make it seem like he wasn't. He was. Okay. So I'm going to get to it. So after that, they gather the food. Joseph is managing all of Egypt for Pharaoh. All of it. All the food, storage, all of that. All of the different entities storing the food. Joseph manages. If you've ever been in corporate America, Joseph is like a vice president. He's like a VP. So he manages all the directors. He manages all the managers, all those below Pharaoh. So Pharaoh is the CEO. Joseph, I don't know if he was over the finances. He could be the CFO. He could be the vice president. Joseph is over everyone below Pharaoh, except for the priests. He's not over the priests. Okay. The famine hit. Everything is going left. It was 7 good years. Seven famished years are upon them. Joseph's brothers now are starting to not have food. Jacob and all his children are starting not to have food. So Jacob sends his sons to Egypt because they found out that Egypt is the only place that has grains, has food. So they go to Egypt and Joseph sees them. And Joseph recognizes them. They do not recognize Joseph. Long story short, Joseph gets them all there, and he shows them who he is. Now, Joseph, they came and bowed to Joseph just as he dreamed that they would be. Just as the dream showed it, not in the circumstance that the dream showed it, but literally as the dream showed it. They came to Joseph and they bowed to Joseph, and they said they needed Joseph's help. Joseph was better off than they were. God had exalted Joseph to a higher level than they were. And they needed, their success was directly related to Joseph. Life and death was directly related to Joseph. They came upon Joseph and they said that they needed food. They found out that it was Joseph and they were astonished. They were afraid a little bit because they said, dang, he could really do us dirty. But see, just like anybody that God blesses, God does not ordain wicked people. God does not bless evil-spirited people. See, God, from my experience, and many of y'all can say, you probably know the same, God walks with you and fine-tunes you along the way. So for another door to be open to you, you have had to have done well in the last house you was in, or the last room you were in. It's an ascension thing. You know what I mean? You're not just thrown into a house with many rooms and all the doors are open. No, you go through one and you come out and you go into another and you come out. That's how it goes. And, a lot of times you just stay in a room until you figure it out. You go no further. Same with Joseph. Joseph was a good man. Joseph could not ever do them like they did him. I wouldn't doubt that there were times when Joseph was ascending that he probably lay in bed at night thinking about his brothers and his father and how they would be blessed if they came to Egypt. He probably prayed to God and asked God to make it so that they came into an encounter with one another again. And this day came upon Joseph, and they came into Egypt. And he was able to bestow upon them gifts. Do you not think while Joseph was laying out all the storage houses and looking upon the land of Egypt that he didn't notice Goshen? And he said, dang, this would be great for my father and all of the children of Israel. Because he knew his father had a flock. This will be great for them. And they could grow in this area. Joseph knew all of these things. I'm going to fast forward. All right. So, Joseph So I read to you already what happened when he saw Joseph, when Joseph saw his brothers. So they all reunite and they hug and everything, and Jacob, who is now Israel, is happy and he sees his sons alive and everything. But Joseph gives them a heads up. And Joseph said unto his brethren and to his father's house, I will see. Now listen, he said unto his brethren and into his father's house. That means that there were many outside of his brothers. There were many outside of his brothers. There were other children. He said, and Joseph said unto his brethren and unto his father's house, servants, other children, there was many amongst them outside of just those 11 and Jacob. I will go up and show Pharaoh and say unto him, my brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade have been to feed cattle. And they have brought their flocks and their herds and all they have. And it shall come to pass when Pharaoh shall call you and shall say, what is your occupation? That you shall say, thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth even until now, both we and our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. That was the plan. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptian. That was the plan. Goshen was the plan from the gate. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, my father and my brethren and their flocks and their herds and all that they have are come out of the land of Canaan, and behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took some of his brethren, even 5 men, and presented them unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto his brethren, what is your occupation? And they said unto Pharaoh, thy servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. They said moreover unto Pharaoh, for to sojourn in the land we are come, for thy servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. land. Now therefore we pray thee, let thy servants go dwell into the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spake unto Joseph, saying, thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. The land of Egypt is before thee. In the best of the land make thy father and thy brethren to dwell in the land of Goshen. Let them dwell. And if thou knowest any men of activity among them, make them rulers over my cattle. What Joseph did was Joseph gave them words of power. Joseph gave them the advantage to speak to Pharaoh in a way that Pharaoh would want to incline upon whatever they asked and grant it. Because these are shepherds. They weren't fine-tuned through the fire like Joseph. See, Joseph was fine-tuned through the fire, through pain. He had to learn. They were busy out in the fields kicking it under tents. Joseph learned Pharaoh's house, Pharaoh's court through slavery, through the bottom. That's why I tell y'all, the bottom is popping. The bottom is the most powerful place you will be. The underdog has the advantage. You know why? Because the underdog can look around and nobody will notice. Joseph was learning from everyone. Joseph had the ability to ask questions and people would incline unto him and give him information because they never thought that he would even be someone that would ascend to such heights. He was inconspicuous. He was what's the word? He could go unnoticed. He's an old fly on the wall. He could speak to the butler and get inside information. If you want something from Pharaoh, you need to talk to Pharaoh this way. Because I done seen everybody come before Pharaoh and they don't get it because they talk to him this way or they ask for this. He got insider knowledge. And just as the brother was speaking to in a Bible study I was watching about Eli and Samuel, and Eli giving Samuel the advantage by telling him how to answer God, to incline God, to welcome God in. Without certain words of power, you don't get in. A lot of times you need a mentor. A lot of times you need someone to assist you. This is what Joseph blessed his brothers with. So much so that Pharaoh granted them the best of the land of Goshen. And this is the land that the children would occupy for 430 years until they left in the Exodus. They would flourish. They would multiply and flourish in this land. They will become culturally sound as the children of Israel. They would create an identity, and they would create a huge profit base for Egypt. So much so that Egypt did not want to lose them. You know why? Let me tell you. I thought about this for a while, about how what came next was Jacob was welcomed into Pharaoh's house. And it says here, and Joseph brought in Jacob his father and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. I thought to myself, wow, I wonder how did that happen? Like, why would Pharaoh allow Jacob to bless him? Because, many know across many spiritual paths, you don't want everybody praying for you, friend. I done said this many times, and y'all it go over your heads. But if you are a spiritual person, and you walk with spirit, the spirit of God, whatever God you praying to, whether it's the God of Jehovah or Allah or whoever, you have to be careful who you allow to pray for you. You don't want someone to have so much power of you that they pray for you and you can't pray for yourself. Pharaoh said unto Jacob, after he prayed and he blessed him, how old art thou? And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, the days of years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of the years of my life been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before him. Jacob blessed Pharaoh twice. Why is that? What gave him the ability to do that? What gave him the power? You know why? Because Jacob is of the vine of Abraham. And the covenant that God had with Abraham, where God said, through Abraham and his children, all nations will be blessed. This is significant. This is why these children were so important. I have said this to y'all. Y'all can go back on my old videos, on any of my Instagrams, my past ones. I done said this a lot. These children, wherever they scattered in the world, they are there because these children provide protection. They are blessing the nation in which they are within. It's the same thing with the Hebrew children of Israel. It's the same thing. This is what made Joseph's dream interpretation and prophecy so relevant. That covenant. I'm going to go on this and I'm going to end it. Jacob said, few and evil have the days of the years of my life been, and have not attained until the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. Why did he say that? Jacob had a rough life. I just told you, Jacob stole a birth, or Jacob came out the womb grabbing the heel of Esau. Jacob wrestled with Esau in the womb. Jacob stole Esau's birthright. Jacob twice. Jacob, well, once, but he bought it the first time through what would you call that? It's a crime when you make someone sell you something. I forgot the name of the crime, but he made Esau, caught Esau at a very vulnerable time. Esau didn't acknowledge the fact of how powerful his birthright was, and he sold it to him for some food, for the desires of the flesh. And then, thinking that wouldn't matter because his father was going to bless him anyway, Esau was ill-informed because Jacob's mother and Jacob plotted against him, and they got his blessing, which sealed it. So Jacob stole his blessing. He came out the womb with the disadvantage and took what he needed. He took his blessing from the angel. He wrestled with the whole angel and made the angel tap out and bless him. Jacob was a bold man. God blessed Jacob and named the whole nation of Israel, the children after him. I just said the other day in the video, and I did outside, and I said, I'm sitting on the patio, and I said, I was sitting down, and I said, I'll be 50 in November. And I have uncovered a lot in this life. God has been so good to me. God has been so good to me and speaking to me. And I thank God that I slowed down to listen and to discern. And the more I listen and the more I discern, the more God speaks through me. And the more God sends me on these different paths of life. But in this book, you got people that have lived 300 years. Shoot, it was people that lived way longer than that. 800-900 years. What is 50 years compared to 300 years? What's 100 years compared to 500 years? Could you imagine how wise these people were because of all of those people that had come before them? That had lived long periods of time. Jacob himself lived 147 years. I believe it was 47. Yeah, 147 years. And those before him lived much longer than that. He just said it here. The moral of this story, and I know I went all the way around the way, but this is Bible study, so I'm not preaching to y'all. I'm just going over the Bible, the story. And the moral of it is, it's several morals to it. But the moral is keep going. There is no perfect path. There's no perfect way to act. There's no perfect path. What matters is, who are you? Who is your heart? What is your heart like? You may not be destined to lead sheep, but you may be destined to use your walk as a testimony to somebody else to help them along their path. Because we are all treading our own paths, y'all. And ain't nobody over here perfect. And no, not one of us can sit and judge another. We will find inadequacies within one another daily. Daily. I know you're going to find them within me. Because my life is too real for me to script it. It is what it is. I do the best I can. But God himself never requested us to be perfect. But all God asks that we live our life in an honorable and in the most righteous way that we can. That does not mean always doing what people want us to do right all the time in their way, amidst life stuff, amidst chaos and confusion, whether imposed on ourselves or imposed on us by others. It doesn't even matter. What God asks is that when God moves within us, that we allow the water to flow and that we love one another. We be honest and truthful with one another, and we treat each other as we will want someone to treat us. Joseph was sold into slavery by all of his brothers. Even Reuben, who probably was against it, he didn't go tell his father that he was alive. So he's just as guilty. Yet, God blessed all of them with the abundance. Joseph forgave them and acted as if it was nothing because he loved them. And he knew that all the while, the journey that they set him on actually turned into the biggest blessing of his life. It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story of self-discovery for many people, both he and his brothers. It's a beautiful, beautiful story of the establishment of these children that would stay in this area and would become the biggest commodity Egypt had, all because of Joseph, a man who could not forecast that far out. There's no way Joseph knew that the children would flourish the way that they did and that they would have such an impact on the world even today or then in Egypt. And all he had to do was keep going. He didn't know he was following God. He was surviving and making the best out of a situation. My word to y'all is keep going. Keep your head up and keep going. Follow your heart and keep going. And tap into the God that is within you. Because you got a powerful, there's nothing more powerful outside of you. Nothing. Not even that sun that's shining in the sky is more powerful than the God that is within you. I love you. My Bible study for Tuesday. I hope y'all liked it. Peace and love.